Phyllis Diller became really famous as one of the best comedians in the 1960s. She had wild hair, funny jokes, and always made jokes about her lazy husband named Fang. But behind all her jokes, Phyllis had many secrets and sad things happen to her. For over 30 years, every week, she had someone hidden in her house that she was taking care of. But what was the secret that Phyllis Diller kept hidden from her fans for so many years? One of Phyllis Diller's biggest personal secrets that she kept in her heart for decades was her daughter Sally's battle with a serious mental illness called schizophrenia. Sally was born in 1944, and as she grew up, Phyllis slowly realized that something was seriously wrong with her daughter. But back when Sally was growing up, people didn't understand mental illness very well, and there wasn't much help available. What's more, doctors, medical help, and people's understanding were much more limited than they are today. Phyllis worked really hard to take care of Sally at home for many years. No matter how many comedy shows she had to do, she always had someone hidden in her house taking care of Sally every day. Nobody knew this secret, and nobody would have guessed that she had one of her children hidden at home, fighting a mental illness for many years. Even though Phyllis was becoming more and more famous and had to do comedy tours, write jokes, and work on TV shows, she kept this secret close to her heart and tried to make life stable for her daughter. She visited Sally every other week, even when she was traveling for work. She cooked meals, managed schedules, took Sally to doctor visits, and stayed really calm. She worked hard to create a steady, peaceful environment for her daughter. All this while she was also doing her comedy shows and keeping up her public image. It was really tough for her to keep this secret and take care of her daughter with very little help, but she kept pushing forward. Unfortunately, Sally's illness got worse over time. After 30 years of visiting her daughter every week and taking care of her, Phyllis had to make a really painful decision. Taking care of Sally at home wasn't enough anymore. As Sally's symptoms and needs became too much to handle privately, Phyllis had to send her to a professional hospital. She still kept this a secret from the public, and even people close to her had no idea what was happening. For most of Sally's early and middle life, while she was fighting schizophrenia, this condition was kept completely secret by Phyllis and was never mentioned in her comedy act. She never included it in her jokes or routines. Only Fang, her made-up husband character, became a way for her to joke about household chaos, marriage problems, and life's crazy moments. But she never exposed or made drama out of her family's real pain. Phyllis stayed completely quiet publicly about Sally's schizophrenia, not just because she felt ashamed, but also because of how society was back then. People with mental illnesses were usually treated badly and discriminated against, so she wanted to protect her daughter from gossip and media attention. This is why her daughter's condition became the secret Phyllis Diller kept hidden from fans for decades. It was only much later, especially in her book called Like a Lampshade in a Whorehouse, that Phyllis Diller finally admitted just how difficult it was for her to take care of Sally. She revealed that she felt torn between her work responsibilities and being a mother, and how she felt alone because she had to keep the secret. She didn't just talk about the pain she felt, but also the feeling of not knowing how to care for Sally, especially when medical resources and mental health support were so limited. In that book, she let readers see the secret that she had hidden from fans for decades, the nights she spent worrying and the struggle between being a public comedy character and a private mother. It was her book that finally revealed the secret that she had been carrying. She told the world about the burden that she had been carrying, mostly in silence. For the sake of her child's dignity and to protect Sally's privacy, she kept it a secret from the world. Phyllis never used Sally's illness as material for her jokes. Unlike many comedians who use stories from their personal life for comedy, Sally's illness was never part of her comedy act. To the world, she stayed the wildly crazy, self-making, fun-of-herself comic with outrageous hair, costumes, and stage characters. But this wasn't the only secret related to Phyllis's children. After spending 30 years keeping the secret of her daughter's mental illness while taking care of her and hiding her at home, Phyllis was devastated when her son died from cancer. In 1998, Phyllis Diller experienced a huge loss that left her very depressed. Her oldest son, Peter Diller, died from cancer. Just like she did with her daughter, she kept his illness a secret and even grieved privately. Peter's illness wasn't something that Phyllis told the public about. For a long time, there was nothing in the news about what was happening in her family. She didn't add it to her jokes or comedy character or talk about it in public. Eventually, he passed away, and this was finally announced to the public in obituaries and biographies. After Peter died, Phyllis was deeply affected. His death was one of the many personal tragedies that she went through and kept secretly close to her heart. Along with Sally's schizophrenia, in fact, the quiet way she handled his illness and eventual death shows a pattern in Phyllis Diller's life. Many of her hardships were always kept separate from her comedy act, and she never actually used the real tragedies as material for jokes and her stage character. Instead, her public image stayed the outrageous, self-making, fun of her, self-comedian with an invented husband, Fang, and absurd household chaos. She never showed the real sadness underneath the surface. Peter's cancer, his death, and the silence she kept around it for so long show the main secret Phyllis Diller kept, that behind all the laughter, there was constant loss, which she carried in private. Even while the world only saw her humor, his death was something she held close to her heart, just like her other tragedies, which weren't exactly secrets. A few years after Peter's cancer and death, Phyllis was devastated again when another one of her children died from a stroke. As Phyllis was in the later part of her career and getting ready to retire from her stand-up comedy career, she got more bad news. In 2002, one of her daughters, Stephanie Diller, died from a stroke. At that time, she had already retired from her stand-up comedy career. The devastation and sadness that she felt was real, and Phyllis felt crushed and focused on mourning privately. Like with her daughter Sally's schizophrenia, Phyllis didn't let anyone know about her daughter's health problems or death. Instead, she continued to focus on the crazy parts of household life, her fictional husband, Fang, and making fun of herself instead of using her private suffering for public material. She didn't really talk about it until her later 2005 book, when she revealed that Stephanie's death hit her very hard. It added to a series of tragic losses that she had gone through, like her son Peter's cancer and Sally's illness. In fact, some people close to her say that Stephanie's death was one of the personal reasons why Phyllis decided to scale back her professional life and retire. She retired from touring in 2002 to focus on the children she had left and her personal life. After Stephanie's death, Phyllis often had to balance her public image as a lively, non-stop comedic person with her private pain. When Stephanie and Peter died, Phyllis didn't really tell anyone, but the world eventually found out. But there was an even bigger secret about her life that she kept hidden from fans for many years. Phyllis Diller kept this secret hidden from fans, and that was something that happened before she had Sally, Peter, Suzanne, Stephanie, and Perry. She and her husband Sherwood had a child that tragically died as a baby. This loss is one of the painful secrets that she kept in her life. She never spoke about it publicly, and many fans didn't know that she had this quiet grief. The child was a baby boy named Perry after Phyllis's father, and died just 2 weeks after his birth. The exact year was around 1943, and this happened before she gave birth to another son also, named Perry in 1950. If you don't understand, that means Phyllis lost her son named Perry in 1943, then gave birth to another child, and gave him the same name. For most of her life, this death stayed a secret, and she never talked about it in interviews, stand-up comedy routines, or media profiles. She didn't only keep the secret of her daughter's schizophrenia, but also this baby tragedy that happened to her in the early days of her life. Although she stayed silent for a long time, she later revealed this secret that she kept hidden from fans for decades. In sound bites about her personal life and in biographies, she talked about the child's death and how it had affected her. She never really went into detail about what really happened, only saying that there was a long history of one of her children that died as a baby. She decided to remember her child by giving the same name, Perry, to another boy born in 1950. It was her way of carrying the memory of the baby. But when her fans later found out, they realized that the recurring theme in her life was endurance, loss, grief, and silence. The baby's death, like Sally's illness and Peter's cancer, shows just how many personal tragedies Phyllis bore alone and kept secret from the world. Her public self stayed the same, and none of her fans knew about the secret that she kept hidden for decades. But Phyllis Diller's life wasn't all tragedy. She had 2 other children, Suzanne, C.